Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LOI Talk podcast. I'm your host, John O'Gallagher. Very glad to be joined by Matthew O'Dovely, or Matthew Dooley, very special guest. So, in this one, we've a good bit to go through, really. We're going to go through all the matches from last week. Going to do a little European preview, a little First Division review, and then go through the FAI Cup matches coming up this week. Hope everyone's keeping well and ready for this week's episode. Matthew, how are you getting on?
Grand, yeah.
Good stuff. We'll dive straight into the games of last week. The first game is actually Matthew's team. It's Bows against Galway United. So at this stage, can an argument be made to consider Bohemians as serious title contenders? Yeah, it's a really impressive run of form for Bohemians at the moment, and it was a comprehensive win for Galway. For Bows, against Galway. Galway do seem to be really struggling at the moment. They haven't actually won a game, in their last 5 or 10. The last only win coming against Cork City, so they're really struggling. They're lucky. I mean, they with the form that Sligo Rovers is starting to find, they could genuinely end up finding themselves in a bit of a relegation scrap, I think. They're really not doing very well at all. It's a fascinating one. But from a Bohemians perspective, they look really good. Dawson Devoy is absolutely on fire. Many are saying he's the best in the league at the moment, and I don't think that's too far off the case. He got a bit unlucky in England last few seasons when he tried to go to England. Didn't really work out for him, unfortunately. But I don't know. I think if this man gets the right move, or maybe he'll just stay in the LOI now forever, but I think if this man gets the right move, he could really be one of I'm not sure, will he ever be an international player? Maybe that ship has sailed, but he definitely has bags of ability. But yeah, they've also got obviously Ross Tierney. When that duo came back, Bo's obviously meant a bit of business. Douglas James Taylor is playing really well up front for them. So yeah, they've got some. Bows are really looking strong at the moment. I know there's a lot of confidence within the fan base that they're going to, really challenge Shamrock Rovers, their nearest rivals, to the title. So, Matthew, are you back now? Do you want to give a little view in this game?
I think, firstly, from a Galway point of view, they were really missing Moses Dyer. Big loss for them. He was one of their star players, top scorer in the Premier Division, obviously. But Douglas James Taylor was just brilliant. And Stephen O'Donnell said in post-match interview, Douglas James Taylor, he has no backlift. So, that's what makes him a really effective striker. And his finish was absolutely world-class. And look, I was mixed about him against Pats, excuse me. But then against Galway, he was brilliant. He got himself to pockets of space, and look, Galway just looked at sea. We could have easily won that game 4 or 5-0. And James Clark as well was running the show. Ross Tierney, like a terrier. Just world class, I think, from Bows, and I think Jason is vindicated in terms of shouts to win the league or whatever. So yeah, I'd be extremely happy at the moment and very confident that we can maybe push Rovers all the way perhaps, and it might go to the last couple of games. I don't think we'll win the league, but I certainly do think we will challenge in the last couple of games for the season, 100%.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next game. So, next game is Waterford against Cork City, which was an absolute miserable game from my perspective. It can't go on like this for Cork City, can it?
It can.
Perfect. Thoughts? So obviously there were some really bad scenes as well afterwards, where Cork City fans got a bit ugly going onto the pitch and stuff like that. And but from a purely from a Waterford perspective, and this is how crazy the league is this season, because a few weeks ago we were saying, could Waterford be dragged back into a relegation scrap, and now we're asking, could they potentially push on for a European charge? Look, I don't see them being able to do that. I think there's just too much quality up there that they don't quite match. But they do look much stronger compared to what they were. And obviously, I think the really disappointing part from a Cork City fan perspective is we looked really actually good against. We looked really good against Celtic. Both halves put it up to Celtic. I know it was a weakened Celtic side, but still. And despite all that, we then go and lose 2-0 to our biggest rivals in what was literally a make or break must-win game in our season. Unfortunately, I see no way back for us now. I think we're definitely relegated. And not just no hope of a playoff place, just we're going to finish dead bottom 10th. And it's a really disappointing season. Personally, I've not been impressed with Jaron Ash so far. He just seemed honestly nervous in his interviews. He doesn't seem confident in himself. But more importantly, on the pitch, he's just not doing it at all. So, I don't have any positives from a Cork City perspective, but you have to take your hat off to Waterford. I know I'm in two here, unfortunately, but it was a really good show from them. But we'll let Matthew come in here. What did you think of this game, Matthew?
Well, I think the Cork City fans kind of targeted the wrong people. They were targeting the players. They were shouting at the players. But this all goes back to up top. Like a few weeks ago, Jared Usher was saying, "Stop complaining about ticket prices." What's that? Apologies there, the old lads onto me. But in terms of Cork City, like ownership or whatever, it's desperate. It's really desperate. Dermot Usher was gaslighting the fans by saying, "Stop complaining about ticket prices, this and that. It's not that bad. It is that bad. And you're going in the wrong direction with Dermot Usher." Like, he has not managed to steady that ship, even with the likes of Shawnee Maguire returning, with the likes of Murray Keating. I know he's out injured, Carl Sullivan. But if you look at what Dermot Usher's done, I think that Celtic game really only just papered over some very gaping cracks at Cork City. I think it was a vanity project more than anything. A great day out for Celtic fans, a great day out for Cork fans, a great chance for the Cork players to test themselves against the Scottish champions and Champions League regulars. But that said, I still think it's just desperate. And again, the gaslighting from Dermot Usher, it reeks of just someone who's out of touch. It reeks of someone who just doesn't care for the club. And I've seen just there on Twitter, Cork City's supporters club, the establishment of that has been postponed because of tensions within the fan base. And the fans do have a right to be angry, but I don't think they should be targeting the players. They're not good enough, but it's not their fault they're not good enough. They're told to just go out and play football. That's all they are. Whether or not they're good enough, it's there's not much they can do in the short term. In the long term, yes, but right now at the moment, Dermot Usher is just completely out of touch. I don't rate Jaron Ash that much. The players, I don't think you are a good enough side. And it's a shame because I like Cork. I'm a Dub, obviously. I know we got battered by 7 goals in the hurling the other week, but I like Cork. I think they're a cornerstone of Irish football, really. I mean, 4 FAI Cup finals in a row, really. Win the league as recently as 8 years ago. So it's a shame. It's a crying shame that Cork are in this mess, and hopefully it can be sorted out soon. And that starts, I think, with Dermot Usher selling the club to someone who can actually run it properly.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair analysis. Maybe it was unfair to blame Jaron Ash because it is probably a deeper problem. We've had decent managers over the last few years, and even they can't solve it. So I don't know where we go from here, to be honest. But anyway, the next game is Sligo Rovers against Derry City. This was somewhat of a surprising result, I suppose, considering the form Derry are in comparison to how Sligo have been this season. But to be fair, Sligo have been very much on the up this year. You know, in the last few weeks particularly, they've been absolutely superb. You know, and Patrick McLean, obviously James McLean's brother, actually scored in this game against his old side, so he was very happy with that. Yeah, no, I think, and you know, Sligo Boys have brought in like Ryan O'Kane. They already have some great players like Hakiki and Will Fitzgerald, Keane Kavanagh. Obviously Owen Elding is the big one. So yeah, no, it's going to be it was a very good result for Sligo. They're only widening the gap now, and it's maybe there might be a bit of a race for ninth, but certainly we know who's going to be getting relegated after this result. But yeah, from a Derry perspective, could this be the result that ends their title charge? It obviously, you know, nothing's over yet. Like there's a lot of football to play, but it doesn't help them anyway for sure. So yeah, it's a disappointing enough result for Derry, but I think Sligo at the showgrounds, they're making the showgrounds a real fortress. Excuse me, at the moment. So yeah, I think it was an interesting game. Certainly, slightly happier the sides, obviously. What do you think of this one, Matthew?
It's funny. I won't have much to say on this game other than I've heard good things. Obviously, James McManus recently go to Sligo Rovers on loan from Bows. Apparently, he was very good. And Sligo, yeah, they've definitely. I think John Russell's done a similar thing to what Alan Reynolds has done. If you remember, when Reynolds was having his head called for, and then stringing this good run of form together, it's similar with Sligo. And I think John Russell has to be given a lot of credit for it. How he's managed to motivate the players to turn such a crap run form around into a pretty decent run of form, and looking like now they could potentially stay up. I would have had them bottom of the season. I would have had them bottom halfway through. But I do think they will survive now. They look very good at the moment. Yeah, I don't really have much to say on them because I didn't watch the game. I didn't read a lot of the game, but I think absolutely like Sligo will be absolutely they'll be very happy with that result. I think Derry extremely disappointed. I think as well the likes of I think was it Pat Hoobin that left for Glentoran and Northern Ireland. That's a big loss for them, and it's clearly showing here. But I just think look, at the end of the day, they're only 1 point behind us. So if we win next week, or if we lose next week, they win next week. It's like right there we on for a title charge. You can't rule anything out yet at the moment, but I think results like this will definitely not help Derry's cause in the moment if they want to be taken seriously as an actual good side.
Very good, Matthew. Thanks. Just a little reminder midway through the podcast as well. LOI Talk will be taking part in a friendly match in Cove Ramblers in about a month's time now, on the 9th of August. Just less than a month's time, 3 weeks' time. So to people who'd be anyone interested in that, you can get your tickets on Eventbrite online. And I just thought I'd mention that midway through. But anyway, speaking of Cove Ramblers, we'll move on to the first division. So in the first division at the moment, Treaty are back on track with an important win over Cove, as Bray defeat Dundalk for one of Dundalk's first loss of the season. Also, apparently Cove Ramblers, first I've heard, actually have a new takeover. So maybe they can just keep signing Cork City's best players now. But no, it's an interesting first division this year. Obviously, Dundalk are not quite running away with it, but they're doing very, very well. But fairly disappointing for Cove to not beat Treaty, especially on the match week when Dundalk lost. So yeah, it's interesting up down there. I'm probably, as a Cork City fan, going to have to take a bit more notice of it because it's looking like that's where we'll be next season. But do you have any opinions at all on that, Matthew? Or you're actually on mute there, Matthew. Sorry.
Apologies. Yeah, I wouldn't have had the biggest look at the first division this week, but important win for Bray definitely to give them more of a chance of potentially playoff football or maybe even win the league outright. You say Dundalk are not in any way, shape, or form running away with it. 4 points at the top. A bit of a sticky run of form for them, to be perfectly honest. And I remember, what was it, Jamie at the start of the year said our Dundalk the best first division side of all time. He's clearly put a bit of a hex on them by the looks of it because they're only 4 points clear of Cove. Look, yeah, Cove are doing really well at the moment. So hopefully we can see Cove up there instead of Cork for a change. But yeah, at the same time, I still think it's going to be Bray going up. I just think Bray look very good at the moment. I know they bet Dundalk for last week, so definitely I think they will be going up. But I wouldn't really have anything constructive to say on the first division.
No problem. Yeah, no, I think it's fairly likely that definitely Cork will be down there, but it's quite possible Cove will be as well, But anyway, to move on to the European preview. Today is Wednesday, so I was Shells will be playing tonight in Windsor Park. So last week, Shelbourne beat Linfield 1-0 at Talca Park. So how important is it now for Shelbourne to see this out? And it's the same result in Inchicore there for St. Pat's as they beat FC Hegelman of Lithuania 1-0. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tougher night for Shells tonight than it was last week. All their own way, to be honest, last week. Very convincing performance, resounding. It was only 1-0, but it could have been 2 or 3 in the first half alone. I do think Linfield went up a few gears in the second half, but yeah, overall it was still quite convincing from Shells. So yeah, I think I see them going through, to be honest, but I think they'll have a tougher time of it. Chris Shields is back as well for Linfield, who we obviously know as LOI fans is a great player. I can't comment as much on the St. Pat's because I just know nothing about Hegelman really, but apparently again St. Pat's had a very dominant display and were disappointed to be only going into the second leg at 1-0. So I'm confident both sides will get through, but it's going to be much harder this matches they're playing away. And they're both, travelling a fair distance away, like 164 kilometres down the motorway for Shells and, like the other side of Europe for Pats. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but I'm looking forward now to watching, hopefully, the Shelbourne and Linfield match tonight, if possible. So, yeah, do you have any thoughts on that matchup?
Well, I actually did do a bit of homework for this, believe it or not. But I seen the Pats highlights, and yeah, they were absolutely dominant. Like Hageman did not have really a hope in hell in that first half in particular. Like I think they should have got a penalty in the 5th minute. It was a push in the back. Their keeper should have been sent off for stepping outside the box with the ball in his hands. I think there was a number of chances that they should have put away. Like Melia had a very good chance in the 3rd minute to put Pats into the lead. So it was very dominant display from Pats, and they'll be very disappointed. I don't think the referee was all that consistent. He missed quite a few decisions, like the aforementioned penalty. There was arguably 2 penalties in the run-up to Pats' actual penalty that they scored. I think they'll be really disappointed though with only the 1-0, but they'll be very happy with how they played. Then as for Shelbourne, look, tonight obviously they're down Belfast in Windsor Park, and I think it's going to be a lot tougher today. I think they were very dominant against Shells were very dominant against Linfield last week at Talca, but I think they would have been less dominant against Linfield than Pats were against Hagelman. But they're very resolute, I must say. Linfield were a credit to them, to be fair. I think their keeper, by and large, kept them in the game. And I think, I think Shells will need to have their shooting boots on tonight, because I seen from the highlights last week, there was a number of chances I think Shells should have dealt with better. But that said, I think Shells will be fairly happy. I still expect them to go through, but I don't think it's going to be like a very convincing victory because Linfield were just that sort of resolute last week. But I think that eventually they'll tire out and Shells might nick a winner in like the 70th minute or something. But Linfield was like backs to the wall, sort of really tough to beat, but eventually they were broken down. And look, I think it's going to be largely the same tonight. It will be tougher because it's in Belfast, and obviously, it's a bit of a difficult place to go. Windsor Park is, I know from looking at Northern Irish League, but I think the biggest advantage that Shells will have is the fact that we're in the middle of our season. They're just getting ready for the new season up there in the 6 counties. So definitely, I think it's going to be difficult for Shells, but I think they'll end up scraping through.
Yeah, it's fair. I definitely think that played a big part last week was that like Linfield are obviously only starting their season. They actually took a bit of a knock in confidence as well, losing to I think Coleraine or someone like that in the Irish Community Shield. So that was a bit of a blow as well, you know. We're going to move on, listeners, now to the FAI Cup Preview. So I'll just prerequisite this. We're going to just kind of go through this fast enough because, well, maybe when we're talking about our own teams, we'll kind of discuss it more extensively. If there's a good tie, we'll discuss it extensively. But you know, there's obviously going to be a lot of teams in here with the greatest of respect, and we will give them respect. We won't know a whole pile about. So yeah, we'll just go through. Unless there's a big tie, we'll go through fast enough. So the first match that was tied out is Dundalk against Sligo Rovers. Dundalk are at home. Arguably, this is the game of the round in Oriel Park. And I think it's actually like pretty much a very even game. Like Sligo probably are slight favourites because they're playing really well at the moment, and at the end of the day, they're a Premier Division side. But you just don't know with Dundalk. Like they're a huge club, and they'd like to think that they're as good as promoted. So like surely they'll want to put up a bit of a fight to a bit of a cup run, you know. But at the end of the day, I think they are starting to be found out a little bit, as Matthew mentioned, as the seasons went on. But I don't really see them forging that much of a cup run this year. But no, it'll be an interesting tie for sure. The next one is against Crumlin United. Defending champions Drogheda United host Leinster Senior League side Crumlin United. Surely we expect a convincing Drogheda win here, but you just never know with the magic of the cup. The next game is a big one. Our very own good admin Keane will be at this game, I'm sure. Treaty United versus Derry. The first time since the 2022 FAI Cup semi-final these sides have met, when Derry just about overcame Treaty 2-1. Who knows if it's going to be as close Friday night? It could be. Treaty impressed me this season in the first division. They've been pretty decent, like. But I don't know. Derry are obviously massive favourites for this one. Then next game we have Galway United, who are in really bad form, at home to Talca Rovers. Dublin side Talca Rovers make the trip across the country to take on Galway. Could there be any chance of an upset here? Look, I don't think so. Galway are at bad form, right? But like that doesn't mean much when you're playing such a low division side. But who knows? Again, the magic of the cup. Who knows what could happen? The next match is going to be a really close one. It's Kerry FC against Athlone Town. It's a pity we don't have the club on, but 9th versus 10th in the first division go head to head in this one. Who is going to go into round 3? It's going to be an interesting one, to be fair. Kerry have been pretty poor in the last few weeks, and that's kind of got them down to 9th. But they have got some decent results. Where I think it's pretty much just all misery for Athlone. You know, they're the worst team in the LOI at the moment, which is mad because many thought that they could potentially mount a charge, but the opposite has been true. We'll get Matthew's input for this one. It's Killester United against Bows. Leinster Senior League side Killester United host Bohemians at Haddon Park. You'd expect the Bohemians win here, but what do you think, Matthew?
So firstly, I think it's since been confirmed that's going to be a daily mount. But that doesn't really matter in terms of funding because it's 50-50 anyway for both clubs. But we're the designated away side for this fixture. And look, yeah, you would be expected a Bows win, obviously, but I'm sure it'll be a good day out for Leicester. I'd like to see maybe the likes of James Talbot come back into goals, the likes of some lads who don't really start, some young lads maybe even starting. And that's not to give any disrespect to Leicester, but like there's a golf in class. It's second in the Premier Division against the Leinster Senior League side. Like I really would not be giving Leicester hope in hell, and no disrespect to them. But like I just think, just give some of the under-20s or like some lads don't play that much a chance again, like Talbot and goal or whatever. Just a bit of rotation, just to give, I suppose, the lads the lads who start week on week a bit of a rest. Because it'll be a good, I suppose, be a good opportunity for the young lads, and also be more crucially because they need rest. I would, I'd be backing us fairly heavily, even with a strongly rotated side.
Yeah, that's completely fair. The next game is Finn Harps against UCD, another all first division clash. As UCD make the long trip up to Finn Park. Who's going to win this one? It's going to be closer than most of the games, to be fair, because these are two sides kind of on the same level. I could see Finn Harps winning it with it being in Ballybuffet, to be honest, but who knows? Like the students are side to be reckoned with as well. The next game we've got is Bray against Wayside Celtic. It's a trip to the seaside for the Dunleary Ratdown based Wayside Celtic. So Wayside Celtic are Dunleary Ratdown, right? As they take on Inform Bray. So yeah, I think this should be a convincing enough win for Bray because they're on good form in the first.
Yeah.
But who knows? It could go. I mean, Wayside Celtic, Dunleary Ratdown, they're going to be decent. Obviously, they've got a good women's team there, DLR Waves, but you would imagine, that should be a convincing enough win for Bray. That's kind of the nature of these early rounds. It's just kind of hard to see. Really
I'll just butt in there and say real quick that my local side, River Valley Rangers, were in the FAI Senior Cup for the first time in their history. Got battered 4-0 by Wayside. So respectfully, up the Seagulls. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Fair enough. Very good. The next game we have is Waterford against St. Mactas. So St. Mactas are a Dublin-based side, and they have a trip down to Waterford on Friday night. As they take down the Waterford side on the back of a 2-0 Munster Derby win. Woohoo. Yeah, so I think Waterford again, massive favourites here. I presume St. Mactas are like a Leinster Senior League side again. So surely there's only one result here, to be honest. The next one is going to be Shamrock Rovers against Wexford. Shamrock Rovers will come into this one as heavy favourites to win out the competition as a whole based on their whole league form this season. And they actually haven't won a FAI Cup in a long time. So I think this is a year they'll really be looking to win it and do a double and a good run in Europe as well. So they should put up a bit of a statement here against Wexford. But Wexford aren't a bad side. I think they're kind of mid-table in the first division. So it's a real test for them now. But I do see Rovers fairly winning this pretty heavy. The next game, so going to be a Turner's Cross. It's Cork City against Leicester Celtic. So Leicester Celtic aren't the English team. They're a Dublin-based side. And they will come into this game Saturday night with belief that they could pull off a shock at Turner's Cross. Or is this the game where Cork City finally get a win on the board and start to get a bit of momentum going? It's if we don't convincingly win this, I think it might. You don't want to call it too early, and obviously there's a lack of managers in the market, but this would be probably a sackable offence if we don't get through this. I do think we will. Look, I think we've enough in our youth academy to beat a side like Leicester Celtic, but you just don't know with the form we're on. So yeah, I'm not gonna overthink it or go into it too deeply, but it's obviously a small bit worrying. And I look, on the odd occasion that we don't win this heavily, you have to ask questions of Nash. I think, even though it's early. But look, I think we'll win this fairly convincingly. So I don't think we've much to worry about. Then next we've got Salt Hill against St. Michael's, the only non-league tie of the round, a completely non-league tie. Galway-based Salt Hill taking on St. Michael's of Tipperary. So it's actually an interesting clash. It's not like, it's not just a pure Dublin clash, like, because a lot of these teams be, again, like the Armagh LOI Dublin base. No, this is Galway against Tip. So I haven't a clue who's going to win this one. This is the first time I've heard of them. I like the cut of Salt Hill's jib, and in the spirit of hoping the Tipperary teams lose, I'm going to go for a Salt Hill with victory, but I don't think we've much insight to give them with the greatest respect to both teams, The next one is Bangor Celtic up against Cove Ramblers. So Cove Ramblers will look to put an eventful week in the news regarding takeovers versus them behind them on Saturday as they travel to Bangor Celtic. Will they come away with the win? Surely to God they will. Cove are as strong as they've been this season for a long time. So they have got a handy draw here, and maybe, who knows, they could go on a bit of a run. Next game is Fairview Rangers against Shelbourne. So it's the FAI Junior Cup champions against the Premier Division champions in Limerick on Saturday night. Could Fairview Rangers cause an upset? I don't think so. It's good to see a Limerick side there, Fairview, but it's surely that's a resounding win for Shelbourne, even though they're travelling away a little bit. The next game is Castlebar Celtic. I'm obviously recognise them straight away as a Mayo side, up against Longford Town. This could be close. I would say Castlebar Celtic are probably one of the biggest teams in Mayo, I would imagine. Longford Town are nothing special, but you would still imagine Longford Town will have enough to see it through. Then the final game, I might have a little bit of insight into this, is St. Patrick's Athletic against UCC. So the final game of the weekend sees them host University College Cork. You'd expect a bit of a rotation from Stephen Kenny's side as they come home from their second European leg clash. Could that be something for UCC to take advantage of, maybe? There's only 2 days between the two games, obviously. So, yeah, I see I'm a student in UCC currently anyway. Hopefully I still will be next year, please God. But yeah, I know the college is trying to get a team organized for this new third division that's coming in. So this could be a real statement now. Obviously they're up against one of Ireland's biggest clubs, so it's going to be a big ask. But I do know they've got some decent players, so you never know. Hopefully they can just keep the scoreline respectable at least. Matthew, that brings us to the end of the games. Do you have any thoughts there? Sorry, I probably should let you in a little bit more there, but go ahead anyway.
Yeah, like the Pats UCC game, it's like, it will be interesting because obviously the players will be tired. They just are back from a flight for fucking Lithuania, for God's sake. So I'm sure UCC would have a slight bit of confidence, and it will be interesting because, again, they are third-tier applicants. So obviously they'd be wanting to kind of test themselves against a good side like Pats. I'd say the tie of the round is definitely Dundalk Sligo in terms of like kind of similarity and like in terms of being at a decent level. But yeah, I still think look, I'd say in terms of what I'd consider to be the most open in terms of a shock, I'd be saying Pats UCC. I really would. Pats UCC. I think in terms of just Pats being tired, maybe using academy players because Europe's where the money's at. So obviously they'll be prioritizing that in terms of finances. So I think UCC could potentially cause a bit of an upset there, but I really think a lot of these are very clear cut in terms of who I think is going to win. Like Shells will easily get past Fairview, I would imagine. Rovers, you'd imagine they get past Wexford. Bowls, I'd even imagine, would be battering Killester. Again, no disrespect. Hopefully Bray put away Wayside because, as I say, not happy with them in terms of beating River Valley Rangers, me local, but you get over that. Yeah, definitely the tie of the rounds, Dundalk, Sligo, and I'd be saying Sligo will win that. I think Dundalk would actually rather not have a cup run because they're trying to get back to the Premier Division, like in terms of where they belong, in my opinion. I think Dundalk do belong in the Premier Division. So I think absolutely, I think Sligo will beat Dundalk, and I think Dundalk will actually be all the better for it in the first division. So Sligo will probably win that, and all of these are very kind of clear cut, apart from the first division ties or whatever. So
Yeah, they're all fairly clear cut. Like you'd imagine anyway, unless there's something crazy that happens. Like that kind of brings us to the end of the pod. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Matthew is holidays tomorrow, guys, so he he won't be
yeah,
around for the next while.
my office.
but so yeah, we'll miss him, like, but yeah. So no, thanks very much everyone for watching. It's been a real pleasure this week to be joined by Matthew, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks so much, guys. See you soon.